Jenkins. We have director Patty Jenkins here. And we also have two of the stars of the film, Connie Nielsen and Lucy Davis. Yay! Thanks so much for being here. And we have here in the front row a nice Wonder Woman right here.
Wonder Woman. You look so great. Look at that. That's so cool.
Patty, you and I had spoken before the movie even came out, and now I started to write down all the records that Wonder Woman has now broken, and then I gave up because there's just too many at this point. It's now the biggest grossing, highest everything superhero origin story ever, basically, right?
Crazy. So crazy. So crazy. So grateful.
So many records. And when did you start to know, were you nervous at any point before it came out? Because there was not only a lot riding on people have been waiting for this story, this origin story of Diana, of Wonder Woman, but also the pressure of being a woman director in Hollywood. How much of that was weighing on your mind before this all came out?
You know, what's interesting is that I was obviously aware that it was a unique situation and the pressure of making Wonder Woman and all those things, but I really managed to not think about it almost at all right up until we were finished with the movie. And then I do have to say, like, it was serious. Like, when I finished the movie, all of a sudden I was like, oh man, this could go wrong in so many ways. And I also I have to admit, I sort of assumed that because anytime you're doing a character that belongs to so many, I assumed that it would be a mixed bag no matter what. And I was like, I don't know, this is the best we could do, you know? What I was not ready for was what an incredibly positive reception for the most part we've gotten. And that felt like such an incredible revelation. I didn't think that it would go like that. And thank God, yes, for the women, for the other women directors, for what it stood for girls I was very aware of. I was like, because I wanted to make a movie for adults and I knew that it was going to be PG-13, but also I was like, little girls are going to want to go see this. And so no, like there was a lot of responsibility across the board, and it definitely gave me pause.
So at what point did you start thinking, oh boy, yeah, we got this? Did you sneak into any like crowded theaters? Did you get?
I tried. Yeah, I did. It was. We had the test screenings early on, and it started there a little bit. But then when the reviews came out, that was a big deal because of course, we were like, whoa. They're talking about what we made, like you never know who's going to see the movie, like you know what we were trying to do, but you never know if they're going to see that. And so when people started reflecting back, even like the big things we wanted to talk about, love, new kind of hero, different way, like they're talking about that, not just, episode, blah, 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 why didn't they use this weapon? They were talking about really the core of what we all wanted to talk about, and that was really moving. And then yeah, I mean, I think it was the second weekend. The way that people acted the second weekend was like, wow, thank you. The fact that people were really coming to it the way that they were and supporting it the way that they were really was stunning.
I mean, I remember looking at articles of grade school teachers talking about the conversations in schools the weekend after people had seen the movie, and the idea that it's actually changing the way little girls are growing up is very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible, particularly.
And little boys.
And little boys.
Yeah. Yes. Totally incredible because I was that kid,
yeah.
and Superman had that effect on me,
right.
And so to know to know that playground play is happening, influenced by our movie and the performances these incredible actresses gave, is like stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning.
So Connie and Lucy, how about you? When did you guys get to sneak in and see with any audiences, or did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I went about 12 days early so I could get in there first. And then I don't look very much like Etta, so I thought it was... And then I waited until everyone had gone. and then I left. But I did want to just see it because I was so excited to hear all the response that was happening, and I just sort of wanted to be part of it. And I thought, oh well, you'll have to think I'm an idiot, but I'm going. Yeah.
I saw it at the premiere, and I rarely ever see my own movies. And really, this is one of the only ones I've ever seen. And I was so lucky that both my oldest and my youngest son could attend. And when I felt my 9-year-old son and his friend, and I saw them both looking at each other, sort of when they saw some of the first real battle scenes, and they went like this, and I was like, yes, it works.
That's exactly what you want, I think. We have a couple of Twitter questions. Patty, this first one is for you. We're speaking of. This is from R41, who says, congratulations on directing the biggest movie of the summer. What motivates you to be successful?
You know, there's all the normal stuff that motivates everybody, but for quite some time in my career, since I was lucky enough to have the experience that I had making Monster, I feel like I really realized that you can do multiple things at once, and that inspired me to continue trying to do that. So, like, to make something that's successful and pay back the people who put the money into it, but also, like, learn something yourself and explore something yourself and share something, trying to do something beautiful with other people is like the name of the game to me, and all I'm interested in doing. So I'm interested in that first and foremost, and that may or may not always be seen as successful, but that's successful to me. And and this is this incredibly beautiful thing where it happens to be a tentpole property where you can also do something that you really believe in and like reach so many people and have a discussion about, wanting to be better people and wanting to be a better hero. And like, that's the best.
Yeah, that is the best. Do you guys want to see a clip from the movie? I think we should see another one. Yes.
So fun.
So what I love about origin stories like this one is the world building, and Themyscira is such a great example. I mean, you got to really sort of design how you wanted this to look. All the fighting. Connie, I need to talk to you about your training for some of these things. But first, Patty, what was your idea when you wanted to sort of tell this story about the early days of Diana, how you wanted it to look this way, appear this way?
So there are a couple things. How we wanted it to look. I felt like of all the Wonder Woman comics that I'd read, Themyscira is an idealistic place. It's a place that that feels like it's on Earth, but you want to go there. You've never seen anything like it. So that was like the bar. I was like, look, it's not the 40s anymore. And in the 40s, nobody had been to Athens. Or somebody had been, obviously. But it wasn't like we all traveled the way that we travel nowadays. So I was like, exotic is not what it used to be, A. And B, I don't personally feel like these women would use those columns. So I can only follow my own looking for a feeling of like, in this day and age, what would be the equivalent of that? And I felt like it needed to be a place where they were living on this hillside and in nature in a way that was different, not lesser. It's not less evolved. They've just made different choices about how they do things. And then the second struggle was really where I got so lucky with people like Connie who like came and it was about finding like a real history and a culture with unbelievable complexity. So it comes down to the actresses that we cast to carry this complexity, and that they're all going to be different and they're all going to have very different points of view about everything. And so, and then the queen being so complex because she's a former badass, most fearsome warrior who doesn't want to be that, doesn't want that for her daughter, but knows so much more than she can tell her daughter. There's a lot going on. So it was like really finding the right people to do it with and to build this world with that many layers that made it real.
So Connie, tell me a little bit about what interested you in doing this and what you did to prepare to play this part. I read that you read a book about Amazonian women.
Well, first of all, it was meeting Patty. Patty and I started a conversation at around 1 o'clock for lunch. And I think we left just shortly before dinner. And it was just one of those conversations that didn't want to stop. And it's because, and I really think that this is so much a big part of it. And I don't think that Patty, she's too humble to say, but the kinds of decisions and the kind of instinct that she constantly puts up there on really trusting her gut feeling and also trusting in her own gender. Like, she trusts women, and you can tell. So when you start working with her, you feel really comfortable bringing up really weird ideas, because you first of all, you know that her instinct would take away the ones that are a little too crazy, but you also know she'll have enough sense of humor to maybe entertain some of the crazy ones.
Here, an example of one of the crazy ideas.
Well, the example was, for example, we're paying Amazons, and so there was a lot of different things that they put on, that they used. And I used a lot of the information from a book called Amazons by a Stanford-based anthropologist, somebody who basically wrote, well, actually, Amazons were real. They really existed. This is how they lived. And so I would bring into like the costume. I bring in, hey, you know what? I'd really like to have like this eagle. I'd really like to have this fur. We come from being hunters. Can we get some of that hunting stuff in there? And then she, we'd present it to her, and she'd just be, yes, and then she'd be very particular. Like, I like this, I don't like that. And that's, to me, that's somebody who is a great director. It's somebody who can make decisions within a framework and still keep it free.
She was particular and all-inclusive at the same time. So you had specific ideas. I'll talk about it later, she's not here. She had specific ideas, but at the same time, always asked, and always asked. She came up with the ginger wig. Yeah.
Which you loved.
I loved it. I dislike this now.
So where actually was what we just saw shot?
Italy.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, and it's actually it's an amalgam of a lot of different places, because we sort of got plates of mountains. There are many things mixed in there, but we shot all of it in Italy, which was some of the best times of our life.
Yes.
My son is here, and it's still to this day. He's like, "Can we go back to those days?" My great son is.
You actually have to
ever.
imagine 50 Amazons and all their kids, and all our kids playing on this playground together, and
summer
the dance
camp
party and all of the fun we had. Yeah.
What about the physicality, in this part, in the training? And Connie, how much did you have to actually do?
That was one of the things I have to say I actually almost enjoyed the most about the process of preparing for it. I mean, in learning about the Amazons and bringing that into the character, and then at the same time doing 2 hours of weight training, then 2 hours followed by 2 hours of sword training, and then 2 hours of writing every day. It was so much fun, and I have never eaten that much in my entire life. And I do love eating, so I appreciated the excuse.
Lucy, are you happy or jealous that you were not part of this training?
Etta had to do a lot of training, hours more than Gal. I think Etta should train with the Amazons, show her how it's done. No, I was not jealous.
And of course, we're missing Gal Gadot, who's not here, but I mean, all of you guys were really in like incredible shape and really doing a lot of these very complicated choreographed moves themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the hardest things we did on the whole movie, for sure, was making Themyscira and finding this Amazon army, because it was really important to me and to a lot of us to get to find real athletes to do these different things, because we needed to represent a lot of different kinds of strength. So then you're finding, the greatest boxer, Ann Wolfe, but now you have to train her on a horse. And then you're finding the greatest horse rider, and you've got to train them with a sword. It was so complicated, because everybody could only do what they could do, and yet you're trying to unify them. But I ultimately love the various shades that it ended up representing of like people are better at different things and worse than others, and you kind of see like, oh, that's the person you want to do the bow and arrow. And that's the long jumper, and which then ended up making it really feel like a real world, where really we were just looking for a little of everything, but it ended up giving, like, actually having strengths and weaknesses all over the place in a way that felt real.
And adding, again, this is the type of woman also, again, that Patty is, because it was so body inclusive. It was inclusive of so many body types. It wasn't just like your long, skinny girls. It was like all kinds of body types, and I really loved that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just the beautiful women. I mean, that's just what everybody brought to it. Like, it was, yeah. Thank you all for supporting that, though. It's great.
Good. And Connie, we have a question to you from Twitter here, from @AbbyGriffin, and she wants to know how you would describe Hippolyta in 3 words.
Mother, strong, wise.
Because the mother-daughter relationship in this movie is very important. She has a lot of maternal figures on that island.
The motherhood is very crucial to Hippolyta. She represents all of the things that motherhood is about. It's both being protective, but also sometimes overbearing. You know, I think most mothers can, admit to that. And so but to really represent that, the depth of that love, which is cosmic, that mother love that's really cosmic, but then also at the same time be strong, because that strength also is a code. And what I love about Patty's vision for Themyscira is also that these are living according to a code of honor, a code of conduct. Be wise, learn, go study. It's not enough to be strong and athletic. No, you have to have the wisdom of the world inside of you. And then you see Wonder Woman use that talent, that code throughout her life. And I think that's what people respond to. I did a film called Gladiator, and it was the code of honor, and that every one of us was living according to in that film, that I think people really thirst after and respond to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should look at another clip. Yeah.
That was a really fun day. I'm amazed we got footage because I was laughing a lot. And it was also in rehearsal we had lightweight sword and shield. We did not for my first take, which that was. I mean, I almost went under with the weight of it. I don't know how Gal carried it. It was heavier than God. It was. I didn't even ask a question. Perfect. Carry on.
No, it just, as you could see, as soon as the clip started to roll, people started to laugh. I mean, part of what's so wonderful about this movie is, it has these very intense scenes and incredible action, but then there's these moments that are so funny, and you guys are all so funny together on screen. Tell me how you found Lucy for this part.
Oh my God. It was so funny because it's interesting because it was such a long road of I just knew that the right Etta was going to arrive, and I met so many wonderful, really funny women, but I just knew, and then all of a sudden, I can't remember how Lucy came up, and it was oh, she's so beautiful, can we do this to Lucy? Transform her. But then from our first conversation, boom. It was from our first conversation, I was sold. I just knew she's one of the funniest actresses people I've ever met in my life. And so, I mean, true, so funny. I'll never forget doing ADR with her at the end of the thing, where we have her come in and just to do sounds, and her sounds were hilarious. She was oh, and we're all just laughing. I'm it's ADR, this is not appropriate. How is she
all
so
my
funny?
ADRs were just grunts.
Yeah, but the funniest grunts I've ever heard in my life. And so it was she and Chris and Gal together, like this is a classic thing. We were laughing so hard. This is one of the only times in the movie I was like, you guys, we got to get it together, because it was just falling apart. But even this, we ended up keeping all the original sound because I couldn't get enough of you guys were like overlapping. Everybody was like, I don't understand what they're saying. I was like, I know, but we have to keep it. It's so funny, just the rhythm and the timing. But anyway, so she just lent herself to this incredibly funny character and brought her to life. And like even our conversations were so great about like how forthright and how in that period of time you can't be that forthright. So it's all kind of undercover, like controlling things, and just really, but yet is a really successful woman in that era who could show, kind of pave the way of like, hey, I'm making it happen over here, you know?
And creating context all the time, because you never forget to create that context. You know, again, it was like, what was it like for women during that time? You know.
Right. Yeah. All right, now I want to hear the story of the ginger wig.
So I came to London for one night from Los Angeles to do a costume fitting, and I went in to have a makeup fitting with all sorts of things ready to say, like this is my best side, and then she went, Patty has an idea. I went, yeah, to put you in a ginger wig, and there was just a brief pause. And I went, that's an amazing idea, and then they actually created the wig, so I couldn't go back. It wasn't like, here's one we've got spare. It was, here's one we made. And but I will say, I love how I look in there. I'm like, I couldn't look so different. I felt really free playing Etta. All sort of vanity went out the window, and it was just fun. And it made myself realize that if I do that more, let vanity go, things will be better.
I'll never forget. Remember there was some cute guy and you were talking about it and you were like, he's really, and then you were sort of like, Patty, look at me right now. And I was like, what? We should talk to, and she was like, look at me right now. Not on this movie. Not on.
I did. It was
not
so
going to happen.
Cute. He was a stunt guy, and then just lovely. And Patty went, go up to him. And I said, in a ginger wig. But I looked over there and I took a sneaky photo of him, which I got told off for.
I mean, I know you guys are all very talented actors, but it's very clear to me that the chemistry between you and Chris and Gal is very, like, it does not surprise me that you guys were all laughing very hard. Is that something that happened right away? I mean, I know, Patty, we've talked about when you were testing Chris and Gal together, that it was sort of an instant.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, the strangest thing about this movie, and it's what you always hope for, and it's why you're picky about casting, is because you're looking for like a level of depth which is aided incredibly by that real person's, you know, bringing so much to it. And I feel like everybody was perfect for their role, and like the dynamics that were happening on screen were real. And that was what was elevating it up even more, was that, like, you know, Chris and Gal both think each other are great, and they make each other laugh. And like, it was one of those things too where, like, after you'd say cut, like they would be like, wow, that was, did you guys see, that was her best performance? I think that was really, like, but that was happening constantly with, like, everybody was really helping each other out and, like, but making each other laugh, thought each other was great. They think Lucy's the greatest. The love between Gal and Connie was real and complex, and triggering into the parental thing was real, and, like, it was wonderful. All of that.
We should tell the story about Chris during the throne scene.
Which one? There's many.
So, you know, you remember in the film, Chris gets hauled from the beach inside into our throne room, and my sister has just died. Everybody is looking at him with hatred. He's brought death and destruction to the island, and you know he is very good at ad-libbing, and so he's being made to kneel, and he's tied in a lasso, and he has the first line after we ask, what is your mission? And I repeat it several times, and he's like, is there a guy around here? Like, is there like a king? And so we all just started laughing because of course there wasn't.
He's very funny.
Very funny. Very funny.
And so is Gal, as it turns out.
Super funny too.
Can't you do, apparently?
Yeah, great comedy.
I have a question for all of you guys from @LexPezaFu. Yes. What were the most memorable moments during filming for each of you? Lucy, I'm going to start with you. Oh my God. I know.
A really nice one. My last day of filming was Trafalgar Square. We were filming in Trafalgar Square in London. And being from England, I was really aware of the honour of that. Because in London, I think you can only do location filming on Sundays because it's so busy. And we got there about 3:30 in the morning to rehearse. And Trafalgar Square was cut off around us, which just never happens. And the beauty of it was amazing. And I had the most amazing day. I will say, I don't know if this is going to sound so out there now, but at lunchtime I got a text to say my grandma had passed away that morning, and she was 101. And I took myself off and I cried, and I just told my makeup artist, because my face was bad, but I was like, I have to get on now with the day, so don't tell anyone. And after that, I went back on set with Gal, and she and I walked through the crowd doing the scene. And whatever you might think of this, I said to myself, "Are you aware of me yet, Nan?" And we'd had grey, drizzle, and clouds all day, and as I said it, this light came down from the sky and landed on Gal and I, and we had to stop filming. And Patty said that she's got the take for me to keep. So that was my little story. So it was very magical to me. And we were filming Armistice Day, and my grandma had never met her father until she was 4, because he was fighting in World War I, and she met him on Armistice Day. That was my.
And can I add to that? It was 100% overcast. We're shooting in Trafalgar Square, and it's no joke. And it's funny because Gal and I were just telling this story to somebody else. Just Gal and I were telling the story, and we were like, literally, it was so weird because it wasn't, the sun didn't come out. A ray of light came out on the two of you, to the extent that me and the DP and everybody went out of the tent and was like, what is up? And then we were like, cut? I don't know what that is. That was super weird. Anyway, go again. And you didn't tell me until the end of the day. And you were like, and you said it in the context of, and I felt like the sun. I was like, Lucy, no, you didn't feel like hundreds of people were like, what the hell? Like, it was not subtle. Like, I couldn't believe the story. It was crazy. Anyway, memorable.
Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Connie, what about you?
I'm struggling here because every day, honestly, every day was so special. I think when we got to Italy and we're all like on this beach and we're doing that first battle scene and we're starting to see it all come together, all those months of work, of training, and all of a sudden all the choreographies are coming together. We've got all of this special stunts, cameras, all of that is getting ready, and seeing everyone doing what I had only sort of had like a loose idea of what it was going to look like, and seeing it all come together. And I think that was the moment when I was like, I have never seen anything like this in my entire career. Right. And I haven't. And we still, it's still unique for that reason. So I do think that, and then walking up from the hill, up from the beach, and then seeing all the guys with all the kids at the playground.
That's amazing.
That's so cute.
Patty, I don't even know if you can pick if you have.
I really honestly can't, and I'm not just saying it. Like, there are so many, and the only thing I can say is just, I mean, I think it's just shooting is hard. Shooting is hard, and everybody is trying so hard to do things, and it was the hardest ones, like the beach battle, or like that Trafalgar Square, or the gal in the winter in the cold in her suit, and I'm in a snowsuit. It's like it was the hardest things that everybody's so committed to the extent that it so came alive on screen, that months later I can even forget how it was to film, because it was just so coming together. But I can't pick one.
That makes sense. We have time to show another clip, right? Yes, let's show one. It's one of my favorite scenes from the whole movie. It's amazing. And I know you talked earlier about Superman being a big influence in you, and I sort of feel that original Superman feeling.
Good, I'm glad. I mean, it was definitely, this was a straight up homage from her coming out through the revolving door to this scene was something that I really, really, really wanted to get in there. And yeah, I loved getting to do it.
Well, so what was it like on that day? Because that was really, like, it's a turning point in the movie, because it's when he realizes that she is, much more than he was expecting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really fun. Doing that scene was super fun because it's just full of the right kind of tension, releasing humor, and great stunts and great stunt people, and it was just a lot of fun, to do. But nothing. There's even a lot of pictures of all of us laughing really hard doing that scene because the shots. I mean, the behind the scenes. I don't know if it's even in our blooper reel, but both Gal going through frame after the camera would cut, and so she'd be doing her things, and then she'd walk through, and it would just be like losing her energy, and then Chris, like all of his faces and expressions as she's doing it. It was just super funny.
I'm sort of curious for all of you guys. Has there been any reactions from fans or things that people particularly took to that surprised you when the film came out?
This didn't surprise me, but here's one that I have. The women crying at the beach battle. I never saw that coming. I knew that it was, and it's funny because of course I understand, and of course I wanted it to be everything it would be, but I never realized it would be so revelatory, because you're also just doing the right thing for the story, so you're so focused on that. So many women saying that to me, I was like, whoa, I never expected that it would be some release they didn't see coming. I don't know, that was a big one for me.
Oh, I went to a lot of screenings where there was full-on emo weeping through a lot of the movie. Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I shared with you also on Twitter was there was a woman who had written that when she for the first time thought that she knew what it was like to be a guy, because she never understood just how confident that you can feel once you feel physically strong, and that she had felt for the first time that kind of owning that confidence, because it wasn't any longer something weird that you were physically strong. It was something that was awesome, but that was something we were allowed to own as women as well. And I think that was a very beautiful comment too.
A friend of mine texted me and sent me photos of the screening, he went to the cinema to see it, and at the end of it, people applauded, and a woman stood up and proposed to her girlfriend, and said yes, and then he'd got pictures of them walking away arm in arm. Oh, it was lovely. Yeah.
Some people always ask me this at my job. I had a lot of friends call me and be like, how old does my kid have to be to go see Wonder Woman? I'm sure this is a question probably all of you guys are too. What is the answer to that? That is what I want to know.
Every parent has to choose for themselves. I used my poor son Asa as the barometer, who is 8 years old, was 7 years old while we were making it. And I showed it to my husband first, and he even flagged. He was like, "There's only one shot that I don't feel comfortable," and then I didn't care about that shot, so I ended up changing that shot. And then when I showed it to Asa, I actually sat and watched Asa, and Asa is, he's a good viewer, and he was completely comfortable watching it the whole time. And then at the end was super positive. And I even asked him, I said, "Is there anything that you felt weird about?" And he was like, "What? No." And then I said, "Okay, cool. So I know 7 is what I feel comfortable with for my family. I don't know for other people, but I've heard of really young kids going." The good news is that I don't think that there's anything truly that terribly shocking. Hopefully it just goes over their head. But I think it gets a little loud and crazy for kids of a certain age, and that's really where there seem to be the biggest sensitivities. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think that there was once I remember when Gladiator came out, I was like, I didn't know if I could let my son come in and see it because he was 11, and it was, I think it wasn't PG-13. I can't remember what it was. It was R, right? And I said, I don't know, what do you think? It was one of the kids' dads at school, and he said, I took even my younger kids to see Gladiator because if there's a strong moral code, then everything makes sense in there. And that's what it is for kids. It's if it makes sense, whatever happens, then that's and that you're going, along this code, moral code, then they're fine with it. And that's kind of what I think is why this film is not going to upset kids in any particular way. I think there's only one moment, and that is when I looked over at my son, which was when the Dr. Poison, that she loses the mask. That was like the only thing where I kind of said, "Are you okay?" And he was like,
Good. That's good.
Are we going to the audience? I'm sorry, no, Lucy, I want to hear what you were going to
I don't
say.
have children.
I don't know.
So I probably take them in at 3. 3 is a good age. Yeah. You're fine.
Well, I mean, you guys didn't probably get to go to the movie theater as much as I went a couple of times, and each time there were a lot of little girls like this one, dressed up, a lot of little boys, and it was actually like part of the whole like women crying in the movie theater experience.
Thank you for making this movie. It was a great experience for me to watch it. And what is it like to direct one of the most successful women's superhero movie ever?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's incredible. It's honestly an incredible honor. It's an incredible, and particularly because I remember so clearly being just like you, and just like you, wanting to be Wonder Woman and loving Wonder Woman, and now to be here today and have had a chance to make this movie and to have someone like you see it is pretty awesome. It's pretty incredible. Good question. Thank you for coming and dressing up like that, by the way. You look great.
I'm a jeweler. I've been a jeweler for 8 years. I study all cultures, Irish, Egyptian, and I always want to be a part of Marvel with like helping in the process with the costumes. So how would a person like me that is not big reach out to people like you to try to make it happen with that? Because I love her bracelets.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I think I can take it there.
And it's a super cool job, actually. Like, it's so fascinating how people do it. I think that, I don't know the exact best thing, but what I would do is honestly look at all of your favorite movies, pick the people who did it, and start writing them letters and ask to be an intern underneath them. I started out as an unpaid assistant on film because that's the only way I was going to get let in the door, was that there was a camera person who said, fine, you want to work for free, I'll train you. And that's how I got, because I didn't have any connections into the industry either. And I worked for free for maybe 6 months or something. And then I started getting paid, and then one thing led to another. But just look and figure out who those people are and start writing them and saying, I'll work for you for free. My assistant, who's here tonight, that's how he started working with me. He was like, I want to work for you, and I'll work for free. And 8 years later, we're still together, working together. So
For free.
One. Listen, come on, man. He offered. Okay, but for real, go for it. And also that is exactly how just getting to be an intern really is the way to do it.
Hello, I want to first reiterate that I think Lucy is one of the funniest women on the planet.
All right.
That's my very good friend who I did not pay.
So are you.
I am one of the funniest women on the planet, you're right. But my question's for Patty. I don't know if you had any arguments with the studio on the elements of the film, but if you did, what was your most important victory?
There's 70,000 minuscule arguments about everything all the time. I think that, I felt like I got supported, and as much conversation as we ended up having, I got to really guide this ship as director. I think that one that was it's not that it was fought particularly, but one that I felt very specifically strongly about was that I feel like there's a tendency doing female heroes to make them too strong and lesser than how you would treat any universal lead character. Like a universal lead character needs to have every dimension. And so I think that there was, it's not that I was being fought on it, but that was the thing that I was the most passionate about, is that she has to be everything. I'm not worried about how strong she is. She's Wonder Woman. And so she also needs to be able to laugh and have every other dimension too. So I think keeping the roundness that one would give to any major superhero of like complexity was the thing that I was the most paranoid about, you know?
We were wondering if right before the no man's land scene, when Diana takes down her hair, if that was an homage to Hippolyta, who wears her hair down when she fights.
That's so awesome. It's an homage to a lot of different things, but I do think it was part of like of how she goes into battle, and then the headband being Antiope's and what it is to go into battle. Yes, she wouldn't have a bun, and so I think yes, it's an homage to all of her culture and Linda Carter as well. The camera move was very much like, I knew we couldn't do the spin, but I like blocked it so that it was her turning around and then she turns around. And so it was like our little way of trying to pay tribute to everything in that moment.
Hi, Patty. I'm actually wearing the shirt from the Comic-Con signing.
I know.
Yeah,
I love that shirt.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm a little emotional because I love the film so much. Like, you should have an Oscar. Like, honestly, it's amazing.
Thank you.
I wanted to get your thoughts on inclusivity, because I found the film to be really inclusive. Like, there were Sikh soldiers walking with everyone else, and all of the supporting characters touched on socio-political topics like body image, racism, genocide, and PTSD. So just sort of obviously your thoughts on inclusivity, but your approach to actually including all of those elements in too, because it is a story about Wonder Woman, but all of the supporting characters got to tell their own stories, as opposed to just sort of them being there as props to like represent issues, but not done in a really developed, purposeful way.
Thank you so much. And can I tell you, I think that's one of the things I'm the most appreciative about when I talk about this, the audience is talking about what we cared about. Because we were trying to do something a tiny bit complicated for what could happen. And I was sort of thinking like the most interesting thing is here's a God coming to walk through the world. So it actually wasn't even that big of a struggle to make it diverse, because she needs to see mankind. You know, she needs to see how everybody's being treated. But the slightly dangerous thing that we were doing was I felt like it was something that I had done a little bit in Monster, where it's like, oh, look at the cliche. Oh, look, he's a thief. Look at this guy. Oh, look at him. And so I was trying to use cliche and the racism that you see of like, oh, okay, you're trying to belittle who that person is, but then it became, the whole point was the journey through, like, he's not a con man. He has no choice to be anything else. He's an actor, you know? And so that was actually a part of it that I loved, was being like, come into this incredibly different time where there were all these different challenges. We have plenty of challenges today, obviously, too. But like having a God see how everything is being described and had that she's not allowed in a room, and he's not, you know, being respected, and he's being called something that he's not. And like, I thought that was such a great thing, because of course you need people to help you through the battlefield, but then getting to also have those characters help her story, and like her point of view about the world was something that I loved, and I've loved that people have embraced it. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's funny. It's like, this is the world. This is the world we live in. It's more surprising that it's taken so long for it to be reflected back that way, you know? But I really appreciate the observation about it.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm sorry. I'm just want to say thank you, and also I wanted to thank Jeff Johns, who helped out. And I wanted to know, what is your relationship with him, with how you collaborated, because he's an amazing guy and I would love to meet him, since I'm trying to become a comic book writer too, and he's a writer too. So
yeah, thank you so much, like for for speaking up and saying something. I know. I mean, really, and your beautiful words, like sincerely. I'm always so blown away, that we've done something that we cared about that much, and then to see it reflected back is like mind blowing. It's why I do this. Yeah, as far as Jeff Johns goes, I can't say enough good things. From many, many years ago, when I had talked to Warner Brothers about Wonder Woman periodically, here and there, Jeff was in one of the meetings quite a while ago, and he was a much more junior guy. And I remember our eyes met at the end of my pitch, at that time, and he was like, Superman, and I was like, yeah. And he and I have been super great supporters of each other, collaborators, co-writers ever since. And he's one of my favorite people, and a great artist, and really his heart and soul are so carrying the spirit of DC forward in a way that I absolutely love. And so, yeah, we're working together right now, and throughout the whole process is Jeff and I would talk about all kinds of things. So yeah, you've picked a great person to look up to, and great luck. I hope come and write comic books. Go do it.
And don't lose hope, man.
Don't lose hope.
That's the last thing to go.
I've
right?
lost. I teeter on the brink of losing hope too, and that's why I'm so excited that there is a Wonder Woman that helps us tell a story about how are we going to turn all this around. How are we going to turn it around? I believe in love too. It's our only hope.
Due to the current social political climate, there's obviously going to be trolls coming at you, and I wanted to ask the three of you, have you experienced that when the movie got released?
I personally don't look myself up. I don't search for things, certainly nothing that might be written about me. I think a lesson that I have is if you just focus on things that you want and get really excited about it and know that you can have it. It's not a question, you can. But just don't focus on the things you think are going to prevent it. And when you do that, I can't tell you how swiftly it will come in. So in terms of people writing negative things, it's so fine. Everyone just has different opinions, and it's really okay. And I if I sit here and worry about that, I will never do another day's acting in my life. So just think about what you want, get really happy about it, and excited for it to come to you, because it will.
I have to say that I was a little worried too, because we were unapologetically feminist, but in this really inclusive way that we felt that, guys are really going to support this film as well. And I was thinking that we were going to get a little bit of wind for it, but I have only seen so much love, and I just only barely even started having any social media accounts at all. I cannot believe just how much love we've seen. So I hope that also makes you know that there's just you are part of making a whole lot of love for something like this.
Yeah, and certainly there's going to be always everything. And the only thing I can say, and again, I think it comes down to being surprised how people have sort of gotten what we're trying to say, is Wonder Woman's pro-mankind, she's pro-mankind becoming better and good enough that we can save ourselves. And so, hopefully everybody will be able to see that. We're not against anybody or anything, and I think you can only control it from there. We're trying to tell a message of how all of us save ourselves through a different kind of heroics of love and thoughtfulness and thinking and not wanting to fight. And so, yeah, I try to just focus on the good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the 1970s, when you have Linda Carter, I was a little girl, and I would copy it, and I would sign like this. However, today, because of this film, we have changed it.
Whoa!
So this little deaf girls are signing Wonder Woman.
Wow.
And when I
that's
grew
so
up, we were
cool.
doing the multiple signs. So,
That's so
thank
cool.
you.
That's awesome. Thank you. That is amazing. That's so cool. Thank you. That's
That is
awesome.
fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. You know, the movie is going to be on iTunes on August 29th. There's a ton of exclusive extras, including talking with Gal Gadot and with Patty some more. So make sure you guys check that out. And thank you
We're
so
taking
much.
a picture with all of you in the background.
Yes.
With all of you guys.
Come
on in, Lucy. Oh, this way. All right. Where is it? Lucy, where are you? There, that's it.
Yeah. Nice. Wonder Woman. Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Let's have another round of applause for everybody up here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for your support. I'm not joking. Thank you. You guys have made this what it is. So thank you all so much.